Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at first round series matchup, the second series now to officially conclude as the Florida Panthers in 5 games take down their big brother rival, the Tampa Bay Lightning. We're going to recap the series, what I think of the series overall, where the series was really won, because in all honesty, this series was won before Game 5. We're going to take a look at John Cooper's comments after the game, what's next for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and of course, the Florida Panthers. What's next for the Florida Panthers as they advance to round number 2. We're going to take a look at all of that today. If you guys like this content, want to see more videos like this, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. So let's get into this series. So, what an incredible series overall. These are two teams that, in all honesty, I was really disappointed this didn't go to 7 games. I know for the Panthers fans, they're happy that they won this in 5. They have bragging rights for the rest of the summer. Anybody coming into Miami with a Tampa Bay Lightning hat or shirt or anything like that might want to rethink that, because the Florida Panthers have the bragging rights, and they've earned it. They really earned it this year. We talked about it going into this series. For the Florida Panthers, they don't want to win a Stanley Cup if they don't get to play the Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs, and the ability for them to not only play them but dominate them and win this series is a testament to what the Florida Panthers have become really over the last 5 years. I look back a couple of years ago, and they struggled to beat the New York Islanders. They could not beat them. I remember they played each other it was twice in 3 years. And the Panthers just couldn't beat the Islanders, and they finally overcame their demons. They were finally able to move forward, get over the hump, and they really found some levels of success. And now we're starting to see the Florida Panthers overcome, the next chapter, which is now teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning. And what I really like about the Florida Panthers here is it's not just the top guys that are playing well. Alexander Barkov, you expect him to play well. Sam Reinhart has been a threat all series. You knew he was going to be a threat. Talked about that in the preview video. I like to admit that I'm right here because, it's not too hard to predict that we knew Reinhart was going to be good. Tarasenko, that whole line is still, in my opinion, and I said it in the beginning of the series, I still stand by it. The Barkov, Tarasenko, Reinhart line is the best line in the National Hockey League right now, in my opinion. And that's saying a lot because there are a lot of really good lines right now out there. You look up at the Rangers right now. You look down in Dallas. They have a pretty good line down there. There's a couple teams with some really good lines. Florida, I think, has the hottest one right now. And, they really showed that. They flexed that muscle during this series. We saw some depth scoring from some guys you wouldn't expect. You saw some goals from Carter Verhaeghe, the game winner in Game 4, or in Game 3, which I really think won the series for the Florida Panthers. That goal by Verhaeghe was huge for them. And then you look at some other guys getting on the board on the back end and things like that. And this team all around is just finding ways to win. And they're it's pretty dominant the way they played in this series overall. So we're going to look at the recap of the series by each game. So the first game was a 3-2 win for the Florida Panthers. Now, that game was overall, it was a respectable win, but Tampa Bay, at that point, it didn't look like Tampa Bay was just going to get blown out of this series after Game 1. All right, it's a toss-up for Game 1. It's not the end of the world, but we didn't play our best hockey. And like I said, who do we expect to score in this game, right? Sam Reinhart, Carter Verhaeghe, Matthew Tkachuk getting the 3 goals for the Panthers, and then Brandon Hagel and Stamkos. Stamkos had a good playoff series here for Tampa. That's one of the bright spots, and one of those goals came on the power play, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. It was too little too late. That goal by Tkachuk really sealed the game, that empty netter. They probably should have pulled the goalie a little bit later. I think, the Tampa Bay Lightning, John Cooper's probably kicking himself for pulling Vasilevsky a little bit too early there, and who knows what the score could have been had they waited, had Stamkos tied the game 2-2. We go to overtime, and then who knows what could have happened, right? But that's in an alternate universe that doesn't exist, but that's probably something John Cooper would look back on and say, maybe we should have waited a little bit longer there. So that's Game 1. Respectable win for the Panthers. Game 2. This game was huge, and this is what I meant. So this is the game that I think, as stupid as it sounds, I really think that this was the game that the Panthers won the series. And Sam Bennett gets a goal, which later on we would find out he was injured for the rest of the series. Tarasenko on the power play, again, that top line for the Florida Panthers. Braden Point gets on the board. Stamkos, his second goal of the series. Again, that's another power play goal. And then, of course, the goal by Carter Verhaeghe, which, like I said, I think this was the game. The Verhaeghe goal was really a big goal in this series. It was a pivotal point because had Tampa tied this series 1-1 going back to Tampa, I think we'd still be talking about a playoff series that is still going on right now. And I know I said in the beginning of the video, some of you guys were saying, Kevin, it was game 3. It wasn't game 3, it was game 2. This was the game 2 then, because I really think that Verhaeghe goal was huge for the Florida Panthers. So let's move on to game 3. So game 3, the storyline going in, right? Stamkos has 2 goals, each on the power play. But overall, Tampa's power play hadn't been playing all that well, despite Stamkos' goals. Now we get to game 3. There's a lot of goal scoring in this one. Tkachuk, halfway through the first period, he gets a goal. Stamkos, again, for the 3rd consecutive game, he gets another goal. Less than a minute into the second period, Tyler Mott makes it 2-1. And you're starting to feel good, right? 2-1 lead for the Lightning, despite not playing their best first period. They were down 1-0. Now, all of a sudden, they have a 2-1 lead. Well, less than 7 minutes later, Sam Reinhart, again, the top line, once again, potting in a goal, ties the game at 2. And then this is a dagger. This is the goal that I think in this game. And again, these are, the what is that saying? The death by a million paper cuts. That Brandon Montour goal to make it 3-2 late in the second period. Once again, a period where Tampa had the lead at one point. You felt like you maybe kind of were stealing the second period. Next thing you know, you give up 2 goals there to end the second period. And now it's once again 3-2 Florida. And that was pretty much it. Steven Lorentz gets on the board, Matthew Tkachuk and Nick Paul. And the empty netter from Tkachuk. Now that's his 3rd of the playoffs. And at this point, now it's 5-3 final, 3-0 series lead for the Florida Panthers in Tampa. And you're like, man, how much more can Tampa do here? Because in game 2, it looked like they might have been able to come back. In game 3, they had a lead early in the second period, and then everything just evaporates for this team. This team broke down several times during this series to the point where the Florida Panthers were just super opportunistic. That top line scored at the right time, right place, right time. They were able to really swing the momentum, and momentum really wasn't in favor of Tampa through most of this series. You never really felt like Tampa was going to win this series after that. And now we get to game 4, which was nice because, it's nice for the Tampa fans at least to have a home ice win before the end of the series. And sorry, guys, if we have some kind of stupid ad going on. I really don't want to deal with that. Anyway, so once again, are you surprised? Power play goal by Steven Stamkos, his 4th now of the postseason. So he scored a goal in each of the first 4 games of the series, 3 of them on the power play. Brandon Hagel gets a shorthanded goal, and Braden Point. Now it's 3-0 Tampa, so you're feeling pretty good if you're the Lightning. Kind of looks like they're going to run away with this one. Spoiler alert, they kind of did. Carter Verhaeghe would score. Sam Reinhart again on the power play. Top line in the league. Oliver Ekman-Larsson. So now after this whole mess of a second period, now it's only 4-3 Tampa. So kind of a closer game than the final score would show. Stamkos again gets another goal, and Nick Paul on the power play. So now you're starting to see some life from Tampa, right? 5 goals for Stamkos in this series, 3 of them on the power play. Nick Paul on the power play. The power play starts showing a little bit of life. It's a 6-3 score at the end of the game, and maybe a little bit of confidence starting to develop for the Tampa Bay Lightning going back to Florida. And it was one of those things that, for the Florida Panthers, now you kind of felt like, all right, we got to win this next game, because if this goes back to a Game 6 in Tampa, probably not liking your odds, and now you go potentially back to a Game 7 in Florida. You do not want to be doing that against the Tampa Bay Lightning. All you need is a Game 7 for Vazzy to be completely on his game with Kucherov and Stamkos and Point. Yikes. You gave them too much room for comfort, and there you go. They might be able to take this series. Well, we head back to Florida for game number 5, and the Florida Panthers were able to do what they needed to do. Jalen Waddle banging on the drum before the game. And next thing you know, the Florida Panthers said, yeah, you scored 6 on us in game 4. Yeah, you know what? We're going to do that back to you in game number 5. And that's exactly what the Florida Panthers did, winning this game 6-1. And in very convincing fashion, the Florida Panthers take out the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the first goal wasn't until less than a minute into the second. But again, here we go again with the depth scoring. Carter Verhaeghe, Evan Rodriguez, Verhaeghe with 2 goals in this game. Nico Mikkola, yes, it was an empty netter, but you're seeing the depth scoring. And Victor Hedman gets his first of this series and, fortunately, the last goal of the playoffs for the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2024, as that is the final for game number 5. There was a lot more to the storyline in this game, though, because we know the situation around. There was 2 goals called back for the Tampa Bay Lightning, both of them involving goalie interference. Now, the second one, I think more people are convinced, okay, you have an argument that that's probably not a goal. The first one, now I didn't actually see the second one, but a lot of people are saying the second one was more clear. The first one, which I saw at first glance, I agreed that it should have been a goal. But then they showed the overhead, and unfortunately for Duclair, his skate did go into the crease. It's a stupid, minute rule. There's a lot of gray area, unfortunately, but they did take it back, and it's one of those things where I know the frustration from John Cooper, and the quote from John Cooper kind of says it all, right? This is the frustration for the fan base. We might as well put skirts on the goalies, and that was John Cooper on the disallowed goal for goalie interference. Kind of taking a shot at Sergei Bobrovsky there. And it's one of those things where, if I remember not correctly, a couple years ago against the Islanders, there were a couple goalie interference calls against the Islanders that did go the way of Tampa. And I don't remember John Cooper saying the same thing about that then. So it's one of those things where I get its frustration. It's the end of the series. There's a lot of things to maybe think about for John Cooper. And to have 2 goals disallowed in one game definitely is kind of that sucks. But to be honest, I really don't think it would have mattered for this game. I mean, the Florida Panthers still scored 6 goals, 5 with the empty netter, right? 6 with the empty netter, 5 regular goals. It was just too little too late for Tampa. Their struggles on the power play, that was a big problem for this team. We talked about in the last video I did a couple days ago. Just not seeing enough depth scoring. I like Duclair, but he did not register a goal during this series. The defense needs some work. Guys like Nick Perbix, and as much as I love Calvin DeHaan, that's the only puck I've ever gotten from an NHL player. Calvin DeHaan gave me a puck at a warm-up back when he was with the Islanders. But to be honest, Calvin DeHaan probably shouldn't be on this blue line. So Nick Perbix and DeHaan probably need to go. The whole thing around Stamkos, I think they're going to keep Stamkos. I think the idea that Stamkos is leaving and all this, listen, I'm going to be guilty of it in the next couple of days probably. Potentially rumors of Stamkos going back to Toronto. We did this song and dance a decade ago. We'll see if it's legitimate, but it is going to be questioned. And until Stamkos puts pen to paper, re-signing with Tampa, that is going to be a conversation we are going to have. So for the time being, we'll see how things go. He seemed pretty crushed at the end of the series. Stamkos, obviously, there is the reality he may never wear the Bolt crest again in a game for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So we'll see how things go this offseason. Is John Cooper's job in jeopardy? I don't think so. I think him and Mike Sullivan probably have the most leash of any coaches in the league because of their history with the team and what they've done there. So I think alongside John Cooper, a guy like Sullivan, you're seeing a similar thing with Pittsburgh where they haven't fired him yet. I would be extremely shocked if Julian Breezewell pulled the trigger on letting go of John Cooper. I think it's too soon. And you see teams that maybe do it too soon. The Islanders did it with Barry Trotz. Looking back, the Islanders probably should have given Trotz another year just to see if things could turn around. And I think Tampa's going to do that here with John Cooper as well. Another thing I wanted to touch on for Tampa here, John Cooper, kind of said his stuff. And this is a problem for Kucherov when he gets frustrated, and the whole thing around Kucherov breaking his stick at the end of the series and this and that. He's one of the guys I was really disappointed in this series. He did not have a good series for Tampa. Neither did Victor Hedman. I don't know what's going on with those guys. I don't know if the fatigue of just playing so much playoff hockey is wearing on those guys, or or what it is. But both of those guys, Kucherov and Hedman, really struggled during the playoffs this year. And I've even heard people in Tampa willing to say that they're willing to trade Hedman. That seems like a tough move. That might affect the decision of Stamkos to return or not, so they got to be careful with that. If they decide to trade Hedman, that might affect whether Stamkos comes back or not, so they got to think about that. I think we're going to see a complete reworking of this blue line. I think the only untouchable at this point here is Braden Point, Steven Stamkos, and Andrei Vasilevsky. Other than those three players, I think everybody in Tampa is free game. It was nice to see Mikhail Sergachev come back. He fought back. It was a nice story, but I want to see him healthy for next season. So it might be a blessing in disguise that Sergachev didn't play more playoff hockey and potentially, re-injuring something that could affect next year. In that sense, as much as it was a triumph and it was a good story, I'm happy to see him not playing right now because I think it's the best thing for his career overall moving forward. Yeah, it's a lot of questions for Tampa this summer, and the first obviously going to be surrounding Steven Stamkos. But I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the Tampa Bay Lightning? Because I think their summer is going to be extremely interesting, and like I said, the whole surrounding around Julien BriseBois. I mean, let's be honest, this is the first big test for BriseBois because, in all honesty, Yzerman kind of built the footprint and the foundation of this team and left. And BriseBois got all the cups with this team, but did he really do all the work and drafting and development of this team? Not really. Now we're really going to see, can he draft guys in the later rounds? Can he make, shrewd trades and things like that to make this team better? Because all he's really been doing is patchwork so far. Putting duct tape on the glass to kind of keep things afloat. Well, that's not going to work this year. The quote-unquote mini retools, that's it for Tampa. This is now the third year now where, yeah, they haven't won a Stanley Cup, but the last 2 years being indicative of first-round exits where I think the Tampa Bay Lightning need to make some serious changes. So I want to know what you guys think. And for the Florida Panthers, they're going to wait. They're going to sit on their hands for a couple days, probably relax, breathe a little bit, put some bags on those black and blues that they minimally got in this series, to be honest, but kind of rest up, get ready for the next series. Hopefully Sam Bennett's ready to go for game one against the Boston or Toronto. And that will be their next opponent, either Boston or Toronto. If I had to guess right now, the easier opponent for the Florida Panthers would be the Leafs, but I don't see the Leafs getting there. We'll see how things go. What's the saying? You never, it's not over till the fat lady sings, right? That's kind of the story here. So we'll see how that series plays out. But I think ideally for the Florida Panthers fans, you want this to go to 7 games, and you want to see the Leafs somehow miraculously win this series at TD Garden. But we have a long road to get there. It's going to be a long week. If the Leafs are able to get there, they're going to be pretty shot if they get to potentially game 1 Monday against the Florida Panthers, if they do indeed take that long. So let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this content, want to see more videos like this, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe down below. Also, if you guys are interested in checking out our merch, we've got a new summer collection that just dropped today. So if you're interested in checking out that stuff, the link to that is in the description down below. Also, if you'd like to become a member of our channel, become a member today. It's a monthly subscription just to help support the channel and keep things running, keep the lights on. So thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Peace out, guys.